Neeraj Kabi, wonderful to speak to you. And allow me to say this, you're on quite a roll. Straight after Patal Lok, coming in with Avrodh. And again, an absolutely fine performance. And as a fan of your work, I don't know if you could, if this is true, if you could get any better. But I feel you're getting better with every performance.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you.
Now, it's not an easy part to play, is it? I mean, the part that you're playing in Avrodh. You're talking a man who's the National Defense Advisor, who has to handle the bureaucracy at one end and the politicians at the other end. So,
Absolutely.
tell me about your mind space, how you approach this. Did your director have enough reference material for you, or do you like to do your own work other than working with your director?
So, I play the role of the National Security Advisor by the name of Shailesh Malviya. So, when the beginning was to understand one thing, and that is not to just mimic or to do a biopic of the previous national security advisors of our country, but to understand that this is a very responsible position in a government. It can be any government. Now, specifically to our government, this position has a particular kind of a burden. And that burden is a continuous sense of thought process that has to be alive and ticking at all times of the day, 24/7. You are the advisor for security of a nation. You cannot sleep. So that is my trigger point, and that was my trigger point at that time. To understand that if I were to approach this role, this is what my foundation has to be, that I cannot sleep. I have to be alive at all times, 24/7, because the security of a nation is not a 9 to 5 job. It's not even a creative job. It's a job that can take the lives of people. So here I was with this huge burden. It is more than the prime minister's job, actually, because the prime minister may not be so responsible, but the national security advisor will be pulled up for any kind of a lax in the security system. Now, having said this, the preparation of this was to do a lot of research on what it means to take care of the security of a nation. What is it to work with the armed forces? What is it to work with the government intelligence? There is a state policy, and then there's the real armed forces on the field. How do you put them all together? How do you deal with bureaucrats? How do you convince them that I want to do a surgical strike and not a war? How do you convince them with this? Where does it come from? How does the character become so aggressive? Because the previous national security advisors were not as aggressive as the one that was at that time in 2016. So how do you play all of them together? It's not a biopic on Ajit Doval. So I can't do him. I have to perform the national security advisor who has a responsible and a burdened job. So
And that,
everything to do with the research that came
it's
with
quite
that.
interesting for me to see, it's a very Hollywood thing where the security advisor sleeps in his office. In India, we've always had movies in which he goes back to his air conditioned comfort of his bungalow in South Delhi and things like that. And very early on, Shailesh is shown spending the night in the office in Raisina Hill or wherever he is. I like that approach. I also like the fact that there's a wonderful interplay of characters as well as actors. Ananth Mahadevan, another fine actor, and you
Yes.
keep taking the piss out of each other. It's a wonderful relationship. It's obviously something that goes back to your college days. Have you worked with Anand before? Have you done
Never,
theatre
never.
together?
It's the first
First
time.
time. Yeah.
First
So
time
I'd
I've
like you to
worked with him.
comment on that. And also, like you said, a national security advisor, could be aggressive, but he needs the prime minister to back him. And in Uri, I think what really happened is the aggression suggested, and Shailesh suggests that right in the beginning. He says, "Let's be aggressive about this," was actually thought upon and executed. So obviously there was some kind of synergy in thought process. So let's talk about him with Anand Mahadevan's character and him with Vikram Gokhale's character.
Okay. So just so that, because I forgot to mention a bit about my director and my collaboration with him in your previous question,
Sure.
just to complete that, uh, Raj has been the first AD of a couple of film projects which I had done earlier.
Oh wow.
And it was a delight to know that he is now going to be directing an entire project on his own. And
Sorry to interrupt.
I
Would
couldn't
you
have
tell us
said
the
no to
would you
him.
tell us the films, please, that he was aiding on?
I really don't want to get into that right
Sure.
now,
Fair enough.
Hrishikesh, yeah.
Fair enough.
But having worked with him earlier as first AD, I I found him extremely meticulous in his work, very patient and very hardworking. I mean, all first ADs are very hardworking, but the patience he had and the way he was meticulous in his job is what struck me and was remained with me actually for a very long time. And when I first got a call from him saying, Neeraj, I'm actually directing my first, so would you want to come in and be a part of this? I couldn't say no to that. When we were working, his the information that he had was a lot beyond what my research was. His was specific to the script that he had written and what he had in mind to be able to say the story again, because Uri was already filmed earlier. It was a feature film. For him to say the story again, he had to be very specific onto what he was trying to express to an audience, which had already known about this earlier. And 2016 was not very far ago. We shot this, I think, in 2019 or 2018 end, and it wasn't far away. It was everything was fresh. The feature film on it, the Uri actual attacks, and then our web series. So he had to be very, very clear. That clarity helped me a lot to, let's say, not just to underline my research, but to give it an icing. And I would always approach him on set before I went to shoot every time. Every time, even if I was completely prepared with my physical intelligence, with my physicality, with the research I've done, everything, with the psyche of the character, I would walk up to Raj and talk about that scene again with him so that I get the clarity he's looking for. And the information I got from him helped tremendously, a lot for me to work on this character. And he didn't speak much. He gave me precise things because I think he understood and knew that I would have done my research any which ways.
Wow.
But what he gave me was what exactly was required for just to add that one notch up so that the character can be far more complex than what I was trying to make it. So that is over with the director. Now, coming to the question that you were asking, my working relationship with Ananth Mahadevan, it was a treat because Ananth is such an intellect. He's so well read. He has directed such fabulous films. He's worked with Marathi cinema. He's worked with Hindi cinema. He's extremely well read, and he's such a senior. He's worked for I don't know how many years, much more than what I have done. So here I was with somebody who was senior to me, and our interactions were very interesting, and I hit it off immediately with him. Fortunately, because I had this in mind that okay, I'll be working with somebody who's senior to me, but there I was with him, and I think for the first day itself, it was an extremely comfortable relationship to work with. And when we were doing the scenes, there was so much that one was adding on. I was here with my own research and my methodology. He was there with his vast, you know, tons of experience that he was bringing on, experience of the stage, experience of writing, experience of acting, directing, and he's worked with some of the greatest directors of our country. Please don't forget that. So with that kind of an experience, when you have you, it's a delight to work because it's a constant interaction of performing and learning, and also giving back. He was extremely open about the fact that his experience should not come in the way of what we were doing. And a very lovable human being, immense respect and immense humility. So that's how we were working. And when we were working like that, Vikram Gokhale Saab, of course, is a very senior
Yeah.
person. He has done so much of work himself. He's written books on acting himself. So he was a stalwart again, working with somebody with that kind of experience in the Marathi theatre and cinema. Hindi, of course, he's done a lot, but he's predominant in the Marathi stage and Marathi films and Marathi television. So coming from there again, of course, he's done so much and he's so senior. So there had to be a level for us to be steady and patient because actors who are that senior need their space and need their time. You can't just rush in with them and start to work the way you would like it to happen. So that was another kind of experience that I had with him of really being patient to wait to see what is he doing, how is he working on himself, what is he creating on set. And that patience helped a lot to build. In fact, that patience helped a lot to understand how in the bureaucracy people work. Because even if you see the prime minister,
Yeah.
there is a sense of staying, there is a slow rhythm of talking, there is
Yeah.
immense patience alongside the pressure. Nobody reacts to a pressure in the bureaucracy. They really have learned the art of staying cool and calm and taking the time to answer things, albeit diplomatically, but with ease. And you'll never see a bureaucrat or a politician hurrying up with something or losing his breath. It can be anything, it can be death of millions of people, but they don't get perturbed by it. Now, you don't know what it is, whether it is them not being cared for at all, or is it that they're really not concerned with what is happening, or is it that they know that the best is to be patient? So that area helped a lot, actually,
Very, very
to build
beautifully put.
those skills.
So,
Yeah.
are you difficult to sign now? I mean, there are so many of these young directors who want to work with Neeraj Kabi. I mean, look at your body of work in such a short span of time. The web format really lends itself to an actor of your caliber, whether it's Sacred Games or Patal Lok, Avrodh. People are wanting to cast you. People want you to do these meaty parts. So, how difficult is it to sign you? I mean, do you ask for a bound copy, go through it for a while, then insist on meeting the director, or is it just they have you at narration?
No, I like to be slightly meticulous, of course, because when you are doing a kind of a body of work or what you believe in, and that's the way you want to take yourself ahead. I believe in being very cautious with what I pick up. So when I'm saying cautious, I always need to understand where the director is coming from, his body of work, the entire team that's going to be working, right from the producer to the AD to people who are going to be filming that, and mostly the script. The script is very, very crucial for me and my managers to understand, because unless we have the script in hand, unless I know what I'm speaking and where my character prevails in this entire project, I don't say a yes to anybody. I'm not very difficult like that to work with, because when people come, they do come prepared. I'm also very blessed and fortunate that whoever is approaches with complete preparation. Nobody has ever come and said, "Sir, I have an idea. Sunenge kya?" I don't think people do that. They actually send things earlier. I get mails and WhatsApp messages on the entire project. They send the entire format, and I go through the whole thing first, and then they request for a meeting, and then a narration, and then finally a script. So that's been the protocol for some time, and that's a good way, I think, to work. People are respecting that protocol, and they do cooperate in these. But I'm looking for work in all sorts of things. It's not just only experienced directors. There are many, many newcomers. My first film was with such a newcomer. Anand
Ship
Gandhi
of
had just
Theseus,
done
yeah, yeah.
two short films, and we did and a film like Ship of Theseus, which can only be directed at that time. I thought by a great stalwart, because how do you handle a script like this? This is philosophy, ethics, psychology, cinema, everything put together. How can a two short filmmaker make a film of that caliber? But it's there, so I don't doubt young talent at all. Yes, when I feel that the talent is simply only passionate and nothing else beyond that, then that reasoning does not work, because
Y-
just passion cannot take you anywhere
Sure,
in
sure.
our craft. There has to be a studied method of doing things. So when we see that in their work, it's very easy to
I've
understand.
always wondered about people like yourself, people like Baman Irani, Bomzi, people like Mr. Kher, who didn't enter the industry in their early 20s when they were spring chicken, but entered when they were slightly older, and that can be a tremendous advantage because you have the wisdom of having worked in the theater, honed your craft, and then suddenly, it's not as though you're being thrown to the lions. So you think the 21-year-old Neeraj Kabi would have fared as well at handling these various situations?
Not at all. I agree with you totally. Not at all. I earlier I would say, I think many years ago when I was being interviewed, I would say that yeah, I've come rather late into the industry, so whatever. Now for the last 2 years, I'm going on emphasizing the fact that I've come to the industry absolutely at the right time. Had I come even 5 years earlier or 10 years earlier, I would have never been able to do the roles I'm doing right now. I could never have done a Ship of Theseus if I was 21 or 25 or 30. I could only do it at the age of 42. I could not create Sanjeev Mehra or Parulkar at the age of 30. No ways. All this. And actually, very frankly and very honestly, acting cannot happen at a very, very young age. Acting is a representation of human psychology. It is not imitating or performing something that you want to. It's a representation of human psychology, human feelings, human relationships. How the hell do you understand all this at the age of 21? You
So,
can't.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you here. So are you suggesting that older people playing younger characters is a lot better? For example, would you rather have a 30-year-old who looks 24 play a 24-year-old than a person who's actually 24? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. So what I'm saying is that any kind of performance that you do, if it is going to be something really complex, really complex, you need an experience of life, not just your experience with life outside your home, but even life within yourself as you keep growing. Your growth as a child, as an adolescent, as a married person, then maybe as a father. All these things come into being because you get to understand certain elements of life much more closer than what maybe a 20-year-old or a 28-year-old would be able to fathom. Again, having said this, I'm not saying that 29-year-olds cannot be great actors. There have been, and there still are, amazing actors at the age of 29 and 30. But the roles they do also befit their age. They don't take up roles that are so complex that what a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old would do. So their roles are, you have, I mean, there are so many all over the world. And even in our country, we've had such young actors coming in at a very early stage and have done great work. And even in Hollywood, you'll see so many of the great young actors. So there are people who do this, but overall and all in all, I believe that if you really want to explore a lot of characters, then yes, you have to have a lot of experience and an age where you come in to do this. And I really hope there are more scripts. This is something that I'm always talking about to the producers and writers of our country. Why don't you write more and more roles for people who are middle aged, people beyond the age of 45? Put them in the lead and write like what Hollywood anyways does. I'm
Yeah.
not saying we have to imitate or mimic Hollywood, not at all. We have our own integrity, we have our complete own style of filmmaking, and I have immense respect for that, the Indian filmmaking methodology. But I'm saying is that why don't you have more roles? Why do we have to be so staccato with only youngsters playing leads or stories that are written only with romance in mind? You can have romance with middle-aged people also. We did, Shifali and I did once again. It
Yeah.
was such a beautiful romantic film. I still look at it even today, although I've performed myself. I love and I enjoy that film so much. And I always felt even after that film, why don't we do more of such films? If you want romance, we are here. It's a different kind of romance. Who said romance is only about running behind trees? There are so many complex emotions in romance, and one can do that.
What I also like about Avrodh is the fact that, unfortunately, often in Hindi cinema or in Indian series, the Indian army is shown in a very jingoistic manner. There's a lot of chest beating and brow beating and things like that. And this one is so much more natural. I mean, there is a fair share of war cries, which needs to happen because when a battalion or a special forces team goes out, they've got to get that adrenaline pumping. But that must have appealed to you too, the fact that the Indian Army is represented though as close as possible to the original rather than in a very jingoistic setup.
Yes, 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 it has. Mostly the advantage that we had making Avrodh was it was based on the first chapter of a book, which is called India's Most Fearless by Shiv Arur and Rahul Singh. Because it was based on the first chapter of a book, there is a sense of authenticity. It's not imagination. It's not what you read in the papers or somewhere and you felt, oh, this must have been the case when Uri was attacked. No, it's authentic. It's the writers have gone through with collaborations with the armed forces and then have written this. So everything you read over there, and even while this film was being made, this web series, there was a lot of interaction, I'm told, with the armed forces. I never interacted with them, but I'm told the writer, the director, they all were interacting continuously with them, trying to see if whatever we are portraying is authentic. So because you go into this authenticity so much, automatically you come into a sense of realism in which you want to portray now the armed forces and not in this, like you said, a browbeating or chest beating
Now,
manner.
this is not a controversial question, wanting you to talk about reactions to Sushant Singh Rajput's death. I just want your memories of the man. I mean, you worked in Bomkesh Bakshi, Dibakar, excellent director there. And what a fine film that was. Unfortunately, it didn't do very well. But, who knows what makes for a successful film at the box
Yeah.
office. I just thought it was fantastic. So your memories of working with Sushant Singh Rajput, he's not with us anymore, in Detective Bhumkesh Bakshi.
So just to add to what you said, I also have till date maintained that Byomkesh Bakshi was an excellent work of cinema by Devakar Banerjee. I stand by it completely. Whether it succeeded or not, I don't really put my mind too much into that. That is the area of the producer and the director. But for me, it was a great film to be a part of, and I take great pride in saying that I was part of Byomkesh Bakshi and the role that was offered to me. Coming to Sushant is very strange because I just saw Dil Bechara 2 days ago and I was in tears. Um, Not because he was not there, but because I have performed with him. I have spent time with him on the sets of Byomkesh. And even other than that, I did meet him once at a resort where I was spending 2 days just trying to relax with my family. And Sushant was there in the other cottage. And we did meet up that night. We chatted a lot. And that wasn't too far ago, actually.
Wow.
So just to know him and to know, see, he was a young boy. I would like to call him a boy because that's the kind of respect I'm not that I'm a very senior person, but he gave that kind of respect. He had that kind of humility in him. He knew when to talk, what to talk, and was extremely hardworking. That's where you felt that here's a growing talent, and if this boy focuses on his work, he will create himself into a wonderful performer in the years to come. You don't feel that about every newcomer. You don't feel that about every young actor. There are many young actors, I can tell you even today, who won't really make it so well because they have taken themselves for granted completely and they're only sitting on their past laurels. They're doing nothing but just repeating what they're doing. They've created tantrums on set. I've heard about this, I've seen them. And I feel this person has no future anymore because he's lost himself. He's just 30 and he's behaving as if he's a 65-year-old senior actor of the film industry. Such people will not make it. But Sushant didn't belong to that. There are many, many others like him, a few of them, of course, who I've always felt for saying that this young man will really make it because he has the integrity and the craft that is required to go where he wants to grow. He wants to grow. Sushant was always wanting to grow. He was all ears with the director, with me, with everybody on set. He was constantly learning like a student, and that's such a joy to watch him. And he was relentlessly performing to give his best shot all the time. That takes time. It's okay if you dance again and again and again and give it the best move, but it's not easy to perform because acting is far beyond dancing. Acting requires a lot of other elements to be able to express a character. And there is where you saw his integrity coming in. He just would not stop till he actually got it right. And he would come and even consult everybody to say, was this okay? Is this what we are looking for? When you have these kind of memories, and then you see Dil Bechara, where you suddenly see him as a character who's even younger than what his age was. He played it with such youthful zest that that's the time you feel that, there's something that we have missed out on. Such a beautiful soul. And had he been there, one always wanted to see his work 5 years, 10 years down the line to be with him. These are rare people, actually, rare souls. I guess that's why they go away young. That's all that one.
Last couple of questions. What's a skill you picked up in lockdown? Some people are trying their hand at cooking, some are learning new softwares. Anything that you picked up and said, wow,
Rishikesh, for me, this has been a very sad phase. First of all, the kind of deaths that have happened world over, people falling sick, losing their loved ones, children dying, adults dying. It's been something that I've stayed very unhappy and very uncomfortable with right from the beginning. Even if I wanted to have fun or catch up on film that I wanted to, which I did, but my mind was never into those things. It would be there and it would slip out of my home and again start to worry about what's happening everywhere. And there was a sense of guilt continuously playing, even if I sometimes celebrated, with great food and everything in the family. Somewhere in your heart and your mind, you felt that whatever is happening outside the confines of my home is so sad, and why did this ever have to happen? The second thing was to understand that What is the change that one has to bring about? I started thinking for myself first. Am I going to get back as the same Neeraj as I was? Then what's the point? I take this lockdown as a universal pause. Like when you do a lot of work continuously, you take a breather. The universe has forced this pause on us. We have to think. It has stopped everything. Whether you call it a pandemic or a virus or whatever, the fact is everything has stopped. And this cannot be the power of one thing or one country or one man. This is the power of the universe that has actually brought everything to a standstill. And we have to understand and recognize this to see what is it that we need to do. How do we now need to behave with the universe? How do we now need to behave with humanity at large? Do we still need to fight? Do we still need to go at war? Do we still need to prep our armed forces? Or do we work on our hearts more, or on the citizens more, or on the politicians more? What is it that we need to do to bring about a complete change? This is the chance that we've got to change or revolutionize anything that we want to. After this, we won't be given this chance. Then we just carry on. If we carry on the same way, then it's pretty certain that we are doomed.
Let's end with theatre. There was a phase in your life when you used to put out one theatrical production every year. And off late, that has gone down. I know you still get on stage for the odd theatrical production, but like they say, your vajood is in the theatre. Do you miss it? Do you want to do more of it? Where do you stand as far as that is concerned?
I miss it. I'm not out of it at all. I have been very caught up with work in cinema and OTT, fortunately. And because I got caught up with that, I felt I must be giving my time to this because this has happened after many years of my life. I wanted to get into cinema long time ago. But because that didn't happen, also I was busy with the theater. But when it happened, I felt I might as well put all my focus over here now for some time till I get a grasp of this medium completely, until I am able to make something out of my work, in this industry, in the film world. So, which is why I put my focus over there. It's just a deviation of focus. It's not coming out of theater at all. I need to put more time now into film and OTT, even more than what I've done. But theater is always on the cards. I just about 2 years ago, I was working with Mr. Nasiruddin Shah in a play called The Father.
The father.
So it's not that I'm outside this. I'm still now contemplating on directing my next performance, my next theater piece, which will come shortly. But it's not immediate. I've begun to read what I want to direct. It's a very, very initial stage, but it will happen, but it'll take its own time. The focus now is over here, but theater doesn't go away. Even in this lockdown period, I was part of a documentary on the theater. I also did another recording of a theater piece from a play by Shakespeare for a theater set up in Bangalore. So I'm in touch with this completely. You cannot really come out of something called theater. It is not possible. That's your foundation. You just can't come out of it. You can't say I'm a film actor. You cannot. Your foundation is the
Yeah.
stage. That's where your space is. And that's why you miss it so much. That's why when you go on set, uh, it's very uncanny. I like an open set, a set without people. I like to go early just to experience the sense of theater where you see a stage and there's nothing over there. And I do that a lot of times. I tell my AD also, can I just visit the set right now? They say, but we're just setting it up. I said, okay, that's fine. I just want to go there before I get into my costumes. I just want to get there. And that's not because I want to feel comfortable. I just want to get a space, a sense of that space of nobody being there and me, only me within a confined physical space. That's a joy.
Neeraj Kabi, thank you for the joy that you give us with all your roles, your characters, and thank you for the joy that you've given me personally in this interview. Take care of
Thank you,
yourself.
sir.
Bye bye. Cheers.
You too, sir. Thank you, Hrishikesh. Thank you.